Yeah, that's Sean. I told you. He's got a weird walk now. What's up? Come give me a hug and then.
We've been here for like an hour. Been hanging out down the driveway.
Good. But it hasn't been an hour. Yeah, you're an exaggerating mother. This guy bought himself a 20-inch BMX bike, and I told him he's gonna look like a guy on next Friday, like riding down the street.
Debo.
Just some dude. Hey man, I'll suck your dick, man. I don't have a solid Monday approach to this, but I do have a saying that's from a book, and it says, when the pain of remaining the same finally outweighs the fear of change, surely we will let go. This is a different episode, but it's something that needs to be done. It is the exotic update episode, and it's also going to touch into, you know, you guys have kind of talked with us or mentioned or commented like running the business. How do you do clients? How do you do clients? How do you handle billing? How do you, handle the projects and hours and all that stuff? And I think with where we're at here, like another thing is Joey and I both have created the YouTube channel, not for business and not for like marketing. And that's a plus if that's part of it, but it's really to tell a story. It's about having a platform and to be able to show the process, and not just the process of like one part, but to show the process of a business starting that's young, and showing the projects and the progression and the growth for myself, for the employees, for the projects, everything. It's just to document the story. And I think it's only fair that no matter what, I need to document the things that make sense. And so that's what this episode's about. I have notes on my phone just because periodically I've been thinking about this particular episode and update, and I really, it wasn't like a notepad jot. It was kind of something where I didn't want to lose track or lose the concept of the premises, because there's a lot. I'm going to fire a lot of these off, and then I'm going to get to them as they make sense. Structure, passion, business, burnout, contracts, picking clients, huge dreams, expectations, resources meaning digital drawing, scans, machine work, chasing passion, long days, and trust. Those are all part of this. So I think what we want to do here, if you guys want, there was early episodes that Joey and I dropped that were like super high production. They cost us a lot of money to produce. They were for this truck. Started kind of chasing passion, right? Chasing the vendors, talking with Tuberks, talking with Charlie. We had it set up to do a couple more, and it died down. And there's reasons for that, and there's a lot of this that's attached to passion, and finding that balance between business and passion and survival. So let's kind of just start with the history of this. So I opened up shop, or I legitimately started my own business in 2020, my own LLC. And this job was one that was one of the first ones. Dan's truck, the Super Crew, was one of the originals. Shane's F100 was gonna be one of the originals. Burke's Bronco was one of the originals, but this was kind of in the rotation. I went and looked at this truck, and I talked with the client, and you know, like I looked at it originally, and it had some good foundation, but it also had a lot of stuff that we needed to take steps back on. It's just like building a house or building, you know, something special, where it needs to have a proper foundation before you start building on top of that. Again, go back to the Chase and Passion series and like watch that stuff, and that gives you like a pretty comprehensive history with like where this thing started and what we had to do. Before I started this truck, I talked with several people like in the off-road industry, and it wasn't just about this. It was about like how to invoice, how to bill. I'm just a fabricator. I've always just been a builder or a designer. So running a business is a whole nother field. It's its own thing. It's important, and there's so many do's and don'ts and ins and outs, and there's so much stuff to learn. And it's the same exact thing with everything in my life. Is just, I learned the hard way. I always fuck something up, and that's how I learn. And if I don't fuck it up, then I don't learn from it. It has to be some solid hit, and then I'll get it, and I'll move forward, and I'll advance. And that's just how it is. It's how it is with myself being a parent and a partner, and just growing up my whole life. It's just, I can see that now, and I accept it, and I know that that's how it has to go, and I ride that thing out. So it's the same with running a business. There's been a lot of lessons learned, and I wouldn't say mistakes unless they're repeated. It's just lessons. And you know, back to how do you invoice, and that's something that you guys have kind of asked, and I'm sure you know, a lot of you guys run your own businesses, but for myself, what I took from a lot of that information is really getting your hours. Billable hours was a term, and you know, timesheets. So being accountable for your hours, where it's not just firing off an invoice that says a certain amount of money, and you know, that was 40 hours or 50 hours. It was an actual timesheet. So like with my billing, it's always been a timesheet. So it's an invoice, and then there's a timesheet attached that's a separate document that has the dates, and it has everything worked on per date, and it has how many hours it was worked on the date, because sometimes it might just be 4 hours, and sometimes it might be 14. That's something else to gauge. Something else you want to cover is I am capable of working lots of hours, and it came from Art Center. You know, when I went to Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, same thing. We would have homework that required all of us as students to be up 24 hours and pull all-nighters at the campus, getting everything done. It wasn't a time management thing. It was strictly them training you for an industry where if you go into an industry and you're working as a transportation designer, that you can outwork anybody else because you're trained to do that stuff. And it's the same regiment you get with military stuff. You're overly trained, so then when you're doing your daily or your other stuff, it's easy. Part of like the process too is I think I started with so much just like passion-based drive. I like wasn't able to give attention to the actual like organization and structure and keeping account of things, and you know, really being on top of like material invoicing for materials used and invoicing for consumables used, and you know, bolts and washers and those details. And I think a lot of that is like really important just from the start, to not be lost on stuff like that, because I was, and I still am, I'm so attached to the builds and the craft of it that it's like a real, I have to really hold myself accountable to doing the other parts. And at this point now, like now give it 3 years, it feels like it's been 5 or 10. But now we're here, and I have multiple employees, and I have workman's comp and liability insurance, and now we're at a point too where I have to have a bookkeeper and an accountant, and it's not so much the context of that, it's instilling services to make yourself still be the most optimized leader you can be, or worker you can be. Like right now, where I fit in the shop is I should be in here leading my guys. I should be present. I should be running design, making sure I'm available to consult with each project during the day, and as well as kicking ass on something of my own, whatever project I'm working on every single day. And so instilling systems or services or people on the outside that can take care of things that I might need to do paperwork wise, or you know, bookkeeping, all that stuff, that's more efficient for me, because the stuff I can do with my hands and my brain is more efficient than me sitting at a computer and trying to do a bunch of bullshit on Excel or QuickBooks, you know. And I think that's really important, and that's been a process of mine, because for myself, I always think I can do everything. I'm like the I can do everything guy. Well, I can do that. I'll take care of that. No, I'll get that done. I'll do that. And that surrender is freedom, and it's freedom for success too. I think it's a hard thing to navigate because it really, like, I'm using the exotic as an example, and the thing that sucks is this is by far the most like labor intensive, beautifully crafted thing I have in the studio. It is, like, I call it the people's truck, right? And it's been like having this, and that's how it started. Like, what an opportunity. I have this truck that essentially, I mean, I wouldn't say it's an open paycheck, but it's been something where, like, build it, it's transpired to, originally it was like, let's just try to finish this and get it rolling. And then it like turned into this thing where we wanted to put all the best parts on it. And then we wanted to just build it like just exotic and draw huge amounts of design and creativity in it. And I was so engulfed in this thing. And I wanted to have this as just like my main project. And what an opportunity. That's the whole thing. Like, this is a beautiful opportunity to have. And that creates passion to do something like this. But what happens, and that's like, we have to get into it at some point, is what happens is there's also employees and bills and rent and kids and, you know, survival, family. And when you're not like a huge business, you're not floating stuff. You don't have hundreds, you know, you don't have 200K in the bank to like just float capital and buy parts and do all this. And, you know, it has to be like a team effort with these clients. Another thing, using notes in your phone, just being who I've been, and then like transitioning, especially working with Kevin with the 6100 truck, like, notes are huge, and I just use them every day now because I can just rifle them off, and then I can go about my energy and what I'm thinking about 100 different things every day, and I can go back and I can like look at this. You know, with Jamie Campbell, he owns Raceco, and, you know, I talk to him every once in a while, and he's all, man, just, you know, don't get burnt out, dude. Like, you're going to get burnt out. Just, you know, don't push too hard. You're going to get burnt out. I have never felt that shit. The only stuff where it's turned into that is like financial stuff, where it's like, at what point am I like putting investment into something and not getting return? And, you know, I don't think that burnout thing is something that has to happen with anybody doing this stuff, as long as like you're doing your part to learn and be accountable to what makes things work. I am always one to, like, I'm not a blame person, and I've always been good about accountability, and I always, whether it's good or bad, I always look at myself first and look at my part of things before I start turning on to other areas. And it's the same thing. Like, I think really, to me, like, I've set a premise here where like this has been a pattern that I've made acceptable, you know. And you got to think, if you're doing this for years of like you're waiting and then you're like, you're not getting what you need to run the business efficiently, and you're lapsing on bills and everything because you're counting on money coming in and it's not coming in, and then you're having to work and it's being picked apart, and it's like all this crazy shit. And it's really just like a toxic relationship, right? It's the same thing. Like, it's just like someone that keeps coming back. The loss here for me is like my soul with this, because there's heart here. Everybody loves this truck. That's why this truck is a gift. This truck has been a huge part and a blessing to work on, because it's helped the brand and it's helped the value of the company, and it's rendered more work just off of what we've completed here. And it's inspired people, and it's inspired myself, and it's expanded my skill set. So like, this is a gift. Even if this truck stops right now and it goes somewhere else, this truck is a gift. And I'm forever grateful for this opportunity. And maybe, even if it goes somewhere else, maybe there's someone else that's going to get another opportunity, or they're going to get a chance to make things work. Maybe there's that, and that's okay, and that's beautiful. It's just, for me, like, this has to be a thing of growth where I have to move on. And it's such a tear thing, because who wants to stop working on something like this? Nobody in their right mind. I know I have stinking thinking, meaning like, I know that my way of thinking is usually, not just sometimes, it's usually not the optimal way of thinking. I also think I live naturally in a negative mindset. So I have to work every day to make sure that I'm accountable for that, and I'm aware, and I'm positive. And it's the same thing where I've reached out when I don't know something, or I feel something's foreign or uncomfortable to me. I don't harbor that and go, I'm going to figure it out. I got it. I'll get it. No, every single thing I've worked on, built, I've learned because I reach out, and I reach out to the people and the places and the things that make sense to gather information to get the most optimal situation. Again, this is, like, I've gone in and out of stuff like this, and I always back out, like, well, how can I try to make a solution? How can I make it work? Because at the end of the day, I would love to build this truck. I would love to see it through. I have visions on this that I have never had with anything else, period. But it's just not the case, and it's not reality. And like, that's where, like, they say business is business, and that's that lesson, is like that tie-in with passion. Like, where is the balance? And balance is, I hate that word, because it's just, balance is pertaining to each person and individual in their life. There's no set thing with balance, but juggling passion and business, like, how much of your time and energy are you going to put into something if you're not getting it back? And you get kids and you get older and you realize, like, what am I doing? Am I doing this for the right reasons? Am I doing this for the right client? Does this guy care? Does this guy have respect for me? Does this guy respect the truck? Like, you have to start thinking about that stuff. And if you're on a schedule and everything's good, and there's consistency, and you're getting paid on time and when you're supposed to, and it doesn't matter if they follow you or not. It doesn't matter if they validate the truck, or it doesn't matter if you never even get a text that says this thing's beautiful, or really doing a good job. That stuff doesn't matter as long as you're taken care of. You at least one or two of those boxes is checked, then a lot of those boxes don't have to be checked. But you can't put yourself in a situation where no boxes are checked except this thing's so cool and beautiful. It's just not, that doesn't work. And I think my stinking thinking ran that for a while. And at this point, I am so grateful for everything. And like I said, I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful we got this far and we got what we did with it. And I'm grateful for every other client. And I'm grateful for everything we have in store for the future. And this whole process. So, you have to take those wins where they're at. And I think part of this is just a transitionary point, almost like a growing pain. If we want, let's talk about where we left off with this and close it with that too. Off-Road Expo, we had this, so that was my last push on this, and then I started to do the fuel cell stuff. But Off-Road Expo, we had big bumps on there, we had strike pads on there. I think we covered that, like we did, didn't we do an update? Okay, cool. So the last thing like I started on and where I left off was building the proof of concept for the fuel cells. Obviously, like this fuel cell, it'll just be a replica one on the other side. It'll have 2 cells, both with bladders, both with pumps and pickups. I guess your pump kind of is your pickup if it's in there. What we needed to do here was have some kind of concept so I could understand the shapes, and then also you can see all the scan pickups on here. So these are like reflective pickups for all of the 3D scanning. And what that does is when they scan it, it like pops the surfaces back. And then, you know, that goes hand in hand too. Like getting other people on board with this thing requires like resources. Whenever you get other people on board, it requires, they cost, you know, money and time. And it's the same thing, like there needs to be a team effort here where that stuff is getting taken care of. And like Matt came, he scanned this entire thing. This is all built like to come in and out just like it would if it was a real tank. There's no strap to hold this down, and I kind of left this corner unfinished too because the whole hold down system, that was going to be like a machine portion, like almost like a modern wishbone, like a structural wishbone, that would run through here and then drop to the corner and pick up from under the car. So it's a removable piece, and it's Frenched in, meaning that there's, you know, if this is the top surface, the actual structure is kind of sunk into, like this would be your structure I'm talking about, and your can would have this channeled area where it would, you know, go through and dip down. And so that this whole portion would be French, where it would kind of have a channel through it dug out, and then that would be your machine portion that would run up here, have bolt registers into the steel work up there, and then it would run through and wrap around. And I even thought about like we could inlay like a pocket for like a LED system with an acrylic in there, so if it didn't have a bedside or something, it would still have like a built-in tail light portion, you know, or some kind of rear light indicator. So this thing comes out, it's pretty cool. But this is, I needed to do this because I'm like, how do we know the shapes of the fuel cell? If like, we need to know how it comes in and out, because if I just build this thing into a pocket back there, there's so many constraints that it could just lock itself in and it can't get out. So we have it like, it's a proven system now. The clecos and all that stuff are obviously just to hold it, but you know, that's the whole under portion of the chassis too is all tagged up for scanning. And that's all on the computer, and that's all like stuff that I kind of had going. It's just, again, you know, it's really about having the right team and communication, and I can get all the resources together, but it's a team effort. So that's where we left off. That was kind of the initial grind. I also had the rear portion scanned back here, and we had the front scanned to start some of the machine work, like the big cross member that goes across that actually holds down the tires and would have a spare tire, like a hold down mechanism, and also the front cross member were all set to be scanned and digitized and then obviously milled out. So I think too, I'm just looking at this stuff, you know, picking clients and contracts. You know, talking to like one of my other clients about this situation too, and who's a good friend of mine, and you know, running some kind of a fail safe for yourself, having some kind of contract written up, you know, like some people do like net 30s and things, but it really just, you can have a specialty contract that goes with every job. And you know, I don't know if you do that for the small jobs or if it's just some of the larger, more drawn out jobs, but having something written right when you initially start the build that kind of ensures your safety financially is probably a good idea, and it's definitely something we're going to implement with every new build. There's a lot of personal attachment to builds. I learned a long time ago, this is going to sound so contradicting, but I learned a long time ago to not be attached to vehicles, working at different shops. And it's just like a way of life. A lot of times, like the ideal thing you want when you're working at another shop is you want to like this is your baby. You're going to work on this thing. This is going to be your truck, and you know, you'll work on it till it's done. That is hopes and dreams. And if you can nail that, that's awesome. But a lot of times, like, shops are busy and you get pulled around, or, you know, something needs like backup, or you need reinforcements to get it done in a certain time. And it's just like kind of the way of shops. And so working at different places, I learned to just like, cool, I'll work on this, and you know, if I got to go work on that, that's fine. And I'm not going to be stuck like being bummed out or anything, because at the end of the day, I'm getting paid to build badass shit from all these other shops anyways. It's a win-win. And it's the same with these things. I do not have attachment to them. I love them, and I put all of my efforts into these things. There's not one vehicle in here that's like, only do it 70%. No, we do everything 100%, no matter what. There's not a way for me to physically tune down the quality and the design that we put into everything. And that's why we are who we are. But to that extent, I don't have like, I'm not attached, you know. The only attachment is I just wanting to see this thing all the way through. And that's it. You know, just seeing that vision and wanting to see the vision. No matter what, I'll just always go back on myself because it's something I couldn't finish. But you have to be, you know, realistic with some of this stuff, and you have to think about things in a business standpoint. And there's absolutely just no way that how this thing has been and the program we're on, there's no way to effectively be on a good note to finish it. So I think one of the other things is like, and I mentioned the chasing passion thing before, because like Joey and I both were balls deep on like, I watched the old, like, I think it was titled like Building a Luxury Pre-Runner or something, and it was the old Stewart's Tisco trucks. There was a yellow one. What was the other color? There was two of them. Remember, they built twins.
Yellow and a red one.
Yellow and a red one. And it was like a 10-part series on YouTube.
Ketchup and mustard.
And it's probably still like out there. It's probably just really shitty quality. But I remember like that was the first time there was like a comprehensive build, like you saw it from start to finish. And they split it up into series. And so when I first contacted Joey, who does all this stuff you watch, who's, you know, Joey, you're a blessing, and thank you. But that was our thing. We wanted to shoot this, and we were like, dude, I'm going to get after it like all the way. I'm going to go to every vendor, and I am going to put my efforts into this. I will take days off. I mean, you got to think about it now, like in a monetary way. Me taking a day off to go film for this, but just out of my own pocket and paying someone to go do it, you know, you got to think about the returns with that stuff. And we wanted to go to all the vendors and tell the entire story about like this thing constructed, because really the end vision with this, I had huge dreams for this thing, and I felt like they were very possible, and they were going to be, this would be like what this could be something so incredible. It'd be like a poster car, like something that you'd put on your wall, like an old Ferrari or Lamborghini when I was growing up in the 90s. And we wanted to like cover and document this whole thing. And the tale of what I'm talking about right now is that I'm still going to do that. I'm just going to do it with a different car, and I'm going to just pull through the whole way. And the next one will be something that's even more of a game changer than this, and it's already in process. So I think there's still a lot to look forward to with the Chasing Passion series. But as far as this right now, this is just, I needed to share this with you guys because it's part of my story, and it's part of something that, this is going to be like something I use as a timestamp in the business in my life, and everybody knows about it. And it's been an ongoing thing, and like anybody who's in my circle, they're well aware of like this whole situation, and it is what it is, and it's me. It's not someone else. It's, if I've let it go for this long, and I've accepted the same patterns, and I got the, you know, it's insanity, right? It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, and that's me doing that. So there's no one else to blame except myself and whatever my worth is and whatever I deserve with stuff like this. And so I wanted to kind of just let you guys in on like the scope of the, you know, touching on invoicing and timesheets and things that are helpful like that, and really thinking about organization, and especially when you expand. You know, you can't, running a shop where you're just one guy and there might be like 1 or 2 projects is a lot different than running a shop where there's 4 guys and 7 projects. And the infrastructure that's needed to run a business like that is completely different than the infrastructure that I started with, you know. And there's a lot of stuff that has to be like in place to have this thing be efficient. And that's the whole thing, is just like all these other jobs, I want the business to be ran just like the work. If we are building dreams essentially, and we're building the optimal design and craftsmanship into all of our projects, then why shouldn't the business be the same way? And with that, this isn't how you do business, and this is not the business I can do. So I hope you guys got something from this. Enjoy this episode. We got Fab Diaries coming. This is just one of these things. I'm at the point here where I don't need to stress this. I don't need to have feelings about this. It's just a part of moving on, and it's a part of my own personal growth. And it is what it is. Again, we can all sit here and cry into our faces about how beautiful this is, and I wanted to see it done, and I wanted to keep working on it, and hey, I'll hold your hand and we'll both do it together. But the bottom line is, you got to think about survival and business and what's best for that, and what's best for expansion, and what we're worth here. So have a good Monday. Have a good Monday. Like, comment, subscribe. Dave Watts is here. Got him.
Like for a 45 quart pool. And the bitch thing is, it's semi-rigid, and then you put all your stuff in it, and then when you strap it down,
yeah,
it just
And that's a hard cooler?
It's a hybrid.
Hybrid.
Yes. I'll show you a picture.
Okay.
It's badass. It would fit perfect, and he'd be stoked on it.
Okay.
The bonus to those is, as you take your beverages out, you can continue to cinch it down, and it just keeps everything tight.
Yeah, that's bomb.